Hello everyone, my name is Austin, and today I'm going to review a movie. The movie I'm about to review is Escape from New York, directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell. So without further ado, let's talk about it. The plot is as follows. Set in the near future of 1997, the crime rate in the United States has risen up to 400%, thus turning New York's Manhattan Island into a maximum security prison, surrounded by a 150-foot wall and mined bridges, where prisoners are given life sentences. When the President of the United States' plane, Air Force One, crashes into the prison and is held captive by the prisoners, the USPF, United States Police Force, brings in former war hero and outlaw Snake Plissken to rescue him. However, Snake must do so within 24 hours due to an explosive device being administered into his neck, leading him not only to save the President's life, but also his own. What follows is a non-stop thrill ride of epic proportions, moving at a breakneck pace with exciting results. Director John Carpenter originally wrote the screenplay for Escape from New York in 1976, following the aftermath of the Watergate scandal. Carpenter said, "The whole feeling of the nation was one of real cynicism about the President. I wrote the screenplay and no studio wanted to make it because, according to Carpenter, it was too dark, too violent, too scary, and too weird." He had been inspired by the film Death Wish, which was very popular at the time. He didn't agree with the film's philosophy, but liked how it conveyed a sense of New York as a sort of jungle, and wanted to make a science fiction film along these lines. International film investors agreed to provide 50% of the budget, and Goldcrest Films signed a co-financing deal with them. They ended up making approximately £720,000 of the budget and making a profit of £672,000 from their investment, earning a total of £1,392,000. For the casting of Snake Plissken, the film's financial backer, Avco Embassy Pictures, preferred the likes of Tommy Lee Jones or Charles Bronson to John Carpenter's choice of Kurt Russell. Russell, by that point, was trying to shake his kid-friendly screen image brought on through appearances in Disney comedies. Carpenter refused to cast Bronson, deeming him too old and was afraid of losing directorial control to an experienced actor. At the time, Russell described Snake as a mix of Bruce Lee, Darth Vader, and the Exterminator, with the voice of Clint Eastwood. According to the actor, all that matters to Snake are the next 60 seconds. Living for exactly that next minute is all there is. Russell used a rigorous diet and exercise program to develop a lean and muscular build. He also tried to stay in character in between takes throughout the shooting, enjoying the fact that he wasn't in another Disney comedy. Russell also found it necessary to take off the eye patch in between takes, as wearing it constantly seriously affected his depth perception. During pre-production, John Carpenter had just made Dark Star, but no one wanted to hire him as a director, so he assumed he would make it in Hollywood as a screenwriter. The filmmaker went on to do other films with the intention of making Escape later. After the success of Halloween, Avco Embassy signed producer Deborah Hill and him to do a two-picture deal. The first film from this contract was The Fog. Initially, the second film he was going to make to finish the contract was The Philadelphia Experiment, but because of scriptwriting problems, Carpenter rejected it in favor of this project. However, Carpenter felt something was missing and recalls, "This was basically a straight action film, and at one point, I realized it really doesn't have this kind of crazy humor that people from New York would expect to see." He brought in Nick Castle, a friend from his film school days at the University of Southern California, who played Michael Myers in Halloween. Castle helped to invent the cabbie character and helped come up with the film's ending. The film's setting proved to be a potential problem for Carpenter, who needed to create a decaying, semi-destroyed version of New York City on a shoestring budget. The film's production designer, Joe Alves, and he rejected shooting on location in New York City because it would be too hard to make it look like a destroyed city. Carpenter suggested shooting on a movie backlot, but Alves nixed the idea because the texture of a real street is not like a backlot. They sent Barry Bernardi, their location manager and associate producer, on a sort of all-expense-paid trip across the country looking for the worst city in America, producer Deborah Hill remembers. Bernardi suggested East St. Louis, Illinois, because it was filled with old buildings that exist in New York now, and that have that seedy, rundown quality that the team was looking for. East St. Louis, sitting across the Mississippi River from the more prosperous St. Louis, Missouri, had entire neighborhoods burn out in 1976 during a massive urban fire. Hill said in an interview, block after block was burnt out rubble. In some places there was absolutely nothing, so that you could see 3 and 4 blocks away. Also, Alves found an old bridge to double for the 69th St. Bridge. The filmmaker purchased old chain rocks of bridge for $1 from the government, and then gave it back to them for the same amount once production was completed, so they wouldn't have any liability, Hill remembers. Locations across the river in St. Louis were used, including Union Station and the Fox Theater, both of which have been renovated, as well as the building that would eventually become the Schlafly Taproom Microbrewery. During filming of Escape from New York, Carpenter and his crew persuaded the city to shut off the electricity to 10 blocks at a time at night. The film was shot from August to November 1980. It was a tough and demanding shoot for the filmmaker, as he recalls, "We'd finish shooting at about 6 a.m. and I'd just be going to sleep at 7 a.m. when the sun would be coming up. I'd wake up around 5 or 6 p.m. depending on whether or not we had dailies, and by the time I got going, the sun would be setting. So for about 2.5 months, I never saw daylight, which was really strange." The gladiatorial fight to the death scene between Snake and Slag, played by professional wrestler Ox Baker, was filmed in the Grand Hall at St. Louis Union Station. Russell has stated, "That day was a nightmare. All I did was swing a spiked bat at the guy, and he swung at it in return. He threw a trash can in my face about 5 times. I could have wound up in pretty bad shape." In addition to shooting on location in St. Louis, Carpenter shot various parts of the film in Los Angeles. Various interior shots were shot on a soundstage. The final scenes were shot at the Sepulveda Dam in Sherman Oaks. New York served as a location, as did Atlanta, to use their futuristic looking rapid transit system. The latter scenes were cut from the final film. In New York City, Carpenter persuaded several federal officials to grant access to Liberty Island. "We were the first film company in history allowed to shoot on Liberty Island at the Statue of Liberty at night. They let us have the whole island to ourselves. We were lucky. It wasn't easy to get that initial permission. They'd had a bombing 3 months earlier and were worried about trouble." Carpenter was interested in creating 2 distinct looks for the movie. One is the police state, high-tech, lots of neon, a United States dominated by underground computers. That was easy to shoot compared to the Manhattan Island prison scenes, which had few lights, mainly torchlights, like feudal England. Certain matte paintings were rendered by James Cameron, who was at the time a special effects artist with Roger Corman's New World Pictures. Cameron was also one of the directors of photography on the film. As Snake pilots the glider into the city, 3 screens on his control panel display wireframe animations of the landing target on the World Trade Center and the surrounding buildings. Carpenter wanted high-tech computer graphics, which were very expensive even for just as simple animation. The effects crew filmed the miniature model set of New York City they used for the other scenes under blacklight, with reflective tape placed along every edge of the model buildings. Only the tape is visible and appears to be a 3-dimensional wireframe animation. I know this has probably been said a million times in the past, but Escape from New York is one of John Carpenter's best works, and one of my personal favorites. For one thing, it's well paced, never feeling boring or drawn out, never dragging on for too long, and leaving you wanting more. And when you're done, you have the feeling of, whoa, that was awesome. Also, the cinematography is amazing, giving the film a dark, murky, and creepy vibe of a former city turned into a dystopian prison, in a world ridden with crime. This was done by Dean Cundey, who helped shoot John Carpenter's other works such as Halloween, The Fog, The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China. Plus, also did the cinematography for Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, and Apollo 13. Kurt Russell's performance as Snake Plissken is amazing, showing off the macho manliness of his character through his don't-care attitude, dark humor, and rogue loner voice, reminiscent of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name. Other great performances include, speaking of Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef as Bob Houck, Ernest Borgnine as Cabby, the late Harry Dean Stanton as Brain, Adrienne Barbeau as Maggie, and Isaac Hayes as the Duke of New York. Oh, and there's Donald Pleasence as the President of the United States, whose American accent isn't the best. But hey, he's good in the role, so I'll let it slide. Plus, there's some of Carpenter's minor character actors, such as Charles Cyphers as the Vice President, and Tom Atkins as Remy. I also dig the very synth-heavy score, which was composed by Carpenter alongside Alan Howarth. The effects are also pretty good, helping to further the sci-fi aspect of the film. Granted, it's not overly sci-fi like, say, The Thing or Dark Star, but it's little things like those that make the effects stand out. That and a low budget. Carpenter also directs the film incredibly well, ensuring that there are amazing action sequences and excitement throughout the film. If there were any gripes with Escape from New York, I'd say I didn't have any. It's a great film, plain and simple. The film hit theaters on July 10th, 1981 to critical acclaim and grossed over $25 million on a $6 million budget. The film went on to garner a cult following, inspiring William Gibson's Neuromancer and Hideo Kojima's Solid Snake, the protagonist of the Metal Gear series of video games. It even spawned a sequel in 1996 titled Escape from LA, although that film failed to generate the same critical and commercial success of its predecessor. There were even comic books based on the film, a novelization, a possible remake with Robert Rodriguez in the director's chair, and an anime film from Outlaw stars Mitsuru Hongos directing that sadly never materialized. Escape from New York is a classic, and I highly recommend it. Whether you pick it up on this 2003 DVD edition, or on the more modern Scream Factory Blu-rays, it's definitely worth your time. It's tons of fun, has lots of impressive action sequences, great characters, and is a rockin' good time. Complete with a bouncy soundtrack courtesy of John Carpenter himself and his friend Alan Howarth. And I'd like to give a big shout out to some of the fans of John Carpenter's works that you may not have known are Carpenter fans. And here they are for your very eyes to see.
To
And with that, that is my review of Escape from New York. I hope you enjoyed, found it educational. I hope to do more of these in the future, and when I come back with whatever I do next, you'll know. And I'll know. So until then, I'll catch you later. Bye now.